Megami Device. Hey, what's going on, guys? Time for another collaboration here of Megami Device, and this time Busou Shinki series. This is the 1:1 scale Type Angel Arnval, a really cool looking kit. I can't wait to check this one out. Another kit from this series was actually just announced, a black version of this, so I'm really looking forward to that. For now, let's go ahead and check out this one. If you guys are fans of Mecha Musume, but you like the designs that are much more heavy on the mecha side than the Musume side, this one seems like it's definitely going to be one for you, as it's just a really cool mecha design that just also happens to have the Musume character in there as well. But let's go ahead and get into it. Alright, so in typical large box Megami Device kits here, we've got the same artwork on the front and back and a matte finish for the background, whereas the text and the illustration here are all in a nice gloss finish, giving us a mixture of finishes here for the box, feeling very premium. But as always, a really nice character illustration here for the box art that looks really cool. And then some information down here saying this character was first brought to life through Busou Shinki's figures plus games concept and is now being reborn as a Megami Device unit. Arnval has increased its aerial battle abilities to the limit with its large rear wings and extra boosters. Featuring a laser rifle longer than the character model's full height, Arnval's main war tactic is sniping targets from long-range distances at high altitudes. Arnval's comeback brings nostalgia to longtime fans while also becoming a new addition to the Megami Device series to new users. And yeah, I have to agree with that because yeah, there were some Busou Shinki kits previously, but it was a long time ago. They weren't near as nice as how great the Megami Device kits are nowadays, so it's really cool to see this coming out now as a Megami Device kit. So here's the side of the box just with the same illustration there and the nice big B2. And here on the bottom of the box, we've got some more images of the full kit, all of a fully painted build here, obviously, with that massive rifle and the fuel tanks there on the back. A really cool accent, having these big orange fuel tanks. Kind of looking like carrots there on the back, to be honest, but there she is with the beam saber and the unarmored state there like that. Here's a look at the chest plate. I guess that's detail of the chest plate opened up or off like that. And then here is an unpainted sample build of the kit right there. On the opposite side, here is a look at our options here for not only the faces, but also the hair. So you have a smiling face, kind of attacking face, and just kind of a standard smiling face there as well. But you've got short hair, long hair, and then the equipment on the head. And here is our marking decal sheet for this, or the waterslide decals, I should say. Gonna have quite a few of those, and the list price of this coming in at, right there it is, 9,000 yen for this kit. Let's go ahead and open up the box. Switch it around here, and we got a whole bunch of stuff inside. As you can see, it's a pretty large box, but I want to first take a look at the instruction manual and the decals here, if we can dig those out from the bottom. For the manual, we've got the same artwork as on the front of the box. The back side is the logos there. Opening up to the inside cover, we got another nice big image there of the painted build, and the same thing over here on this side. A great reference for posing the kit, I will say. Next page has the beginning of our part list, and that's going to continue on because there's quite a few parts here with this one, and then it gets right into the construction. So as usual, we're building the unarmored state first, and that's what the first few pages are going to cover, and then you're going to kind of take it apart and then build all the equipment and everything and make it into the fully armored state of that. Once we get back here to the back, here we've got our color and decal guides. Colors are right there, and then there's a guide for where all the decals are placed everywhere around the kit right there for you guys. Then here's a look at the decal sheet. Mostly eyes and some blushing cheeks. A few markings here in a light gray, and then a few there in a kind of orangish yellow color. And that's about it. Nothing too extensive, as about half of this is just for your eyes, but you do have some nice options on there. Okay, taking a look at our pre-printed faces here. They look beautiful as always, really nice quality on them. The detail and the colors, everything on those look fantastic. And then we've got some pre-printed parts here for the body as well. For around the hip section, you've got some white and yellow printed on there. Around the torso, a little bit of yellow printed there on the torso part, and then runner L for some reason is also here in the bag but doesn't have any printing on that. For our hand options here, we've got the standard loadout of open expressive, closed fists, holding hands with fixed wrist there, open resting hands, more holding hands, and more trigger finger holding hands there. For the display base, we've got runner F and runner U for the stronger arm for the display base, but this is going to be molded in a molded silver, as you can see here for this, and that swirl effect of it being a molded silver, adding an interesting kind of detail here to the design of the Megami Device logo. Alright, then a lot of these parts here are going to be in white. So here is runner A, and here's also runner A. So we've got both of these A runners all with parts in white there. Runner C, also a bunch of parts there in white. Runner D, however, a few parts here in a medium warm gray color. But then runners E, F, and G, just some more parts here in white, with us having 2 of the F runner, and there's the parts for runner G. Runner I is going to be in yellow for all of our hair parts there, and runners J and K being in skin tone color there for the head and neck parts. Then runners M and N are back to white for a bunch of equipment parts on there, as you can see. Runner O is also in a molded silver there for some of the weapons parts and joint parts for the equipment. Then runner P is going to be the last of our white parts for the kit, but some quite large parts on there for the wings and equipment, the parts for the legs as well. We've got 2 of this P runner, and actually 2 of this P runner as well. A couple more parts there in white. But then we've got runners Q and Q1. So Q is in a light kind of pale yellow there, and then Q1 is really interesting in this orange color there for the fuel tanks, in that it's just sections of fuel tank, which is so much nicer rather than being 2 halves that you have to sandwich together. And then you've got seam lines down the whole thing. These are designed in a way that you're not going to have any seam lines on those fuel tanks, which is awesome. Runner R is some clear blue effect parts. Runner U here in black, we've got 2 of these. Same thing here for runner V, a small runner here with a few little parts there in black. Runner W is some more parts here in molded silver. We've got 2 of those. Same thing here for runner Y, molded silver for a bunch of different connection pieces, and there's the parts for inside, like the mechanical details in the chest. And lastly, we've got 2 of the Z runner, one for a couple of chest option pieces. I'm guessing that's for those mechanical parts in the chest. And then this is the standard Z runner, which is just a bunch of connection pieces there. That's it. Alright guys, here she is all built up, and in the full armor mode we will of course take a look at the different forms later on here in the review. We'll talk about all the different accessories and things that you have included with this kit and everything that you can do with it. It's really cool though. I love the unique style of this compared to Kotobukiya's different other Mecha Musume lines like the Frame Arms Girl line and the Megami Device line. This would look like first glance that it may just be like another Megami Device kit, but when you really get down to it, it does have its own unique style to the design of it, which I do really like. It sets it apart from that line. And not only that, I think this just fits a really nice niche within this genre of the hobby. It's like a niche within a niche for anybody who may be interested in the Mecha Musume style kits in general, but wanted one that has more of the kind of like obviously aircraft sort of vibe to it, right? Definitely has a quite unique and appealing look to it. So let's start off by taking a look at the different accessories we have here included with it. Now, as is typical for this kind of kit, like if you are familiar with the Megami Device line, you know that we are going to have a lot of accessories. Mostly it's a lot of different optional little pieces, but there's just like a few of the major weapons. So for example here, her main weapon is about 20 centimeters in length, so it's very long. We got the bipod up here at the front, which is working those fold down like that. The main handle is just going to be right here on the top. This also does fold down like that, and that turns into a peg for you to be able to store this like on the wing or wherever you might want to plug that onto. Just your standard 3mm peg hole. You can see we've got a couple of those here along the sides if you wanted to customize this by adding more parts onto it. This part right here on the bottom, you can remove and plug this onto a base to help support it. Now, even though this is a really large weapon, it doesn't weigh a whole lot. Just because it is mostly pretty hollow. We have this piece as well, which is like a stabilizer piece, which will connect here onto the side, and then you can also connect this onto the wrist guard. So when the hand is connected, this will connect onto the wrist to just keep that stable, so that the entire weight is not rested on the wrist joint of the kit, but it's actually then connected to the forearm, so that'll be useful. There is a little clear blue part inside there, but you're not really going to be able to see it, and so they can't really do much with that in there. This part here on the top doesn't move, that's just a fixed part right there, but a really cool weapon, very large obviously, paired with the kit itself. I mean, it's going to be very tall. On a much smaller size, we've also got the rifle and pistol here, so pretty simple but nice designs for those. Here is our rifle, here is the pistol. Really cool, just single color, but nicely detailed. And we have connection pieces for connecting these onto the kit for storage. So like this one plugs up inside here. And as the manual has you do it, you just plug that on here in place of that part there on the side of the leg. So just onto there, something like that on the side of the leg. Or we have another connection piece here, which is for attaching the handgun onto the kit. Now you could plug that onto the same place or in a different place. Like I said, if you wanted to like plug this here onto the side of the wing, for example, anywhere where you have that 3mm hole for optional parts, you could plug this up onto the shoulder here, up onto the side of the wrist right there, so you can plug that onto really anywhere that you want when not in use. Our other weapons, of course, just going to be right here on the shoulder, which would be these kind of like beam swords. So you got these handles, which are just attached right here, a little bit tight. And with those, we've got our clear blue beam effects for that, which you can plug in there and use that as your beam sword. We also have some different adapters for using this as a beam kind of effect part for the weaponry as well. So for example, in our large cannon here, I said you have that clear blue part there, which doesn't really do much, but we are able to plug in this additional kind of adapter piece here into the front of that barrel, just like that, and then you can plug your effect part into there. Now this part on its own kind of just barely fits in there. It doesn't really fit in there all that well. If you have some of like the blast effect parts from the different Megami Device kits or something, I would recommend using those because they look a lot better. I wish that they would have included some of those in this kit as well. Unfortunately, this is just kind of all we really have, but we have a similar part here for the pistol as well, where it actually just kind of fits over the front of the pistol there like that and just works the same way. That effect part is just kind of barely rested in there, but it's kind of a little bit wonky. I would say if you want to use this, just cut off that little tab at the end and it'll fit in there much better. The problem is that that tab is kind of keeping it from being plugged in there too far. And then we've got another adapter piece here as well for plugging this effect part into the barrel of the rifle if you wanted to use that also. Of course, we've got all sorts of our different hand parts. It's just going to be all your standard hands, open expressive hands, holding hands, trigger finger hands, closed fists, all that good stuff for your hand parts for this. They're all in white. And for all of these connection kind of rings here, the ones at the thigh, the one at the wrist, and the one at the upper arm, we have alternate versions of all of those where the hole is just slightly larger. So it's going to be 3mm is your standard size for what peg fits into those. We've got another set where it's just very slightly larger than that. I believe that's for some of the older kits. The peg was a little bit larger, so if you wanted to use some accessories from the older kits with this kit, that's what you can use these for, but just be careful not to mix those up. Most of the rest of our other option bits are just going to be optional parts for like the unarmored body, but we also have these parts for the lower leg for having it in like a different mode without these parts here, but you of course also have the parts just for the regular unarmored lower leg, which is just like that, kind of just a white lower leg part like that. We've got the regular arms, which are just going to be without any kind of adapter parts, and you'll need to use, like in the legs, for example, this yellow kind of ring part there in the legs, and then we have the same part here, like for the arms, just for replacing the connection parts, just with this little yellow ring part. For the chest, aside from just the standard unarmored chest piece here, for swapping that out, we do also have these like mechanical parts which you can use. They're gonna look a lot nicer once you like fully paint them. There's one option, and here is the other option for those chest parts like that. But as they are, I mean, they're really nicely detailed, but just detail painting those up is going to look really nice. And then of course our hair option parts for the unarmored version without this kind of helmet part there on the front of the head, as well as an option for short hair on the back as well, so you can remove this long hair and just replace that with just this short hair option. And of course then finally just our face detail parts, which you can swap out between the three different face plates that we have for this kit. There's a couple of other different option parts, like for the neck, like if you wanted to use this head on a Figma or use a Frame Arms Girl head on this kit, for example, you can swap out those parts. For the base, if you didn't like this more substantial arm for the base, you've just got kind of your standard stick one here like that, which will probably work all right, but this one works pretty well just because this is a larger, a little bit heavier kit. Last thing I want to point out, guys, is just here on the Y runner, which is the silver runner, you have a bunch of these little connection parts which are just left over, which you can use for, you know, attaching different accessories or other option parts or anything like that that you might want to onto here. So a lot of useful just little connection pieces, as well as these little like plug pieces basically. So if you didn't like the look of, for example, having like these holes in the wings right there where you have these adapter points for plugging on accessories or whatever you might want to plug onto there, if you want to just plug those up, you can use these parts right here, which are these just nicely little detailed parts that are even on the back side as well. So they have that little like line and circle detail in there. So you can just use those to plug some of those holes if you wanted to and not have the visible hard points on the kit, which is really cool. You can just turn those into detailed parts. And that's about it for all of our different like little accessory bits that we have for this. As far as the articulation of it goes, it's all going to be pretty standard for a Kotobukiya Megami Device style kind of frame arms girl Mecha Musume style kit. A couple of points where it's a little bit different is here at the hip joint. You'll notice that's a little bit different style for the hip joint. I think this is actually kind of better, although I don't see them implementing this style of hip joint in Megami Device kits or something, just because it's a style that's like fits this particular series, but that will allow the hip to swing out to the front like that really nicely for bringing the leg up really high. The knee joint, as you can see, bends like that. And even down here on these teeny little kind of feet, if you can call them that, these are on little ball joints, so you can actually adjust the angle of these ever so slightly, side to side, forward, back, like that. Back here for these wing parts, you can adjust the angle of them up and down. You can also rotate these parts. This fuel tank, you can rotate in and out, and you can adjust the angle of that also left and right, but it's going to be kind of weird in any other angle other than just kind of straight on. And with these sections being as they are, like if you bought 2 of these kits, for example, you could make these like even longer if you wanted, because they all just connect into each other. Or if you just wanted to have one single fuel tank like out the back or something, you could just connect the parts together and make a single longer one, or whatever you might want to do with those. But the wing parts here are really nice. You have some nice detail there, and the color separation of these little like black accent parts look really cool there on the wings. But so there you have it, guys. A really cool release here now in sort of the revival of the Busou Shinki line here from Kotobukiya, making it a Megami Device collaboration release. I feel like, you know, it's definitely similar to Megami Device in a lot of ways, but it's definitely different enough that I feel like it was an interesting build. And I mean, you can definitely tell that it's not particularly of the same line, but still kind of its own thing, just because of the way that the joints are designed a little bit, just to make it look more like its own different style anyway, I guess, you know, original to the game, which I believe is what they're all from, right? So I think this is really cool. I love the color scheme of this one, the white with the black accents, and then of course those big orange fuel tanks look really cool on there, and I'm definitely looking forward to the upcoming version of this that's going to be coming out, which is basically sort of like an inverted color scheme. It's a black color scheme on it, which I think will look nice, and then it's got, you know, of course, a little bit different parts and a little different weaponry on it. But I hope that these releases do well enough that Kotobukiya decides to make maybe 1 or 2 more in the future as well from this particular series in this collaboration with Megami Device. I think those would be a lot of fun, and I'm definitely looking forward to checking them out if and when they do. My fingers are crossed on that. But let me know your guys' thoughts in the comment section below. What do you think about this release? And have you guys built any of the older kits of the Busou Shinki line from Kotobukiya? That was kind of back in the day when Kotobukiya was first testing the waters of making Mecha Musume style model kits, and so I mean, they're definitely not as nice as what we have like with this particular kit, and just Megami Device kits in general. Mecha Musume kits in general from Kotobukiya, you know, are really nice now. They're of such high quality that going back to those, I mean, they're not going to be quite as nice. But if you guys have built them, let me know what your guys' thoughts and experience was with those, and especially if you've built this one as well, you know, how you guys think that they compare. But if you guys want to check this kit out for yourself or anything else from Kotobukiya, you can check the link in the video description to USA Gundam Store. We've got these kits, everything else, like I said, from Kotobukiya, and lots of other Mecha Musume style model kits from other companies as well. If you guys just like those style kits, check them out. And if you guys enjoyed the video or found it helpful, I'd appreciate leaving a like and or subscribing while you're here as well. It would also be very cool. Definitely appreciate it. Thank you guys so much. Until next time, I'll see you guys all later. Have a great day. Bye-bye.